Here we go then. Drivers make their way on to the grid to kickstart the Junior X30 final. There were many entries this weekend, 58 to be precise, now whittled down to 36 over the course of the weekend. The junior category is up next, featuring drivers between the ages of 12 to 14 years old. The weekend started with the 58 competitors, only 36 now have got to grab that golden ticket for the final after qualifying heats and super heats as well. All drivers on the grid are using the 125cc engine with a power of 21 horsepower and 11 Newton meters of torque. Unlike the minis, the junior class runs on the harder red compound of tyre provided by MG. The fuel once again provided by Panther, and a total minimum weight of 145 kilos with that driver included. They have to meet that when they come into Parc Fermé at the end of the races there. I love that shot. Drivers going to the grid and gridding themselves up. And what a weekend it's been for the junior category as well. Freddie Lloyd, who was leading the championship going into this weekend, I think has done enough to hold on to his championship lead. As he puts it on pole, he comes away with 10 championship points at the end of the superheats classifications. He'll certainly like that one. Romeo Roussel also getting the 9 championship points, and this one will help out his fight all the way throughout this as well. But certainly it has been a tough one for a lot of these drivers. The sun beating down on that tarmac, the air temp, like we were saying, 27 degrees. I can guarantee you that tarmac is a little bit hotter out there.
It is hotter onto the track and hotter in the air, that's for sure. As you can see, within the 3 minutes before the start of the junior final, the actors making their way onto the track with the mechanic. It's plenty of colors on the chassis, on the racing suits and on the helmets as well. And it's common to say that in motorsport, starting in karting, the livery on the helmet is pretty much the face and the identity of the driver. And from the outside perspective, since we cannot see the full concentration and the faces of the drivers themselves when they are doing what they do best on track, well, the helmets help us to identify them and to for them as well to build their own image, to build their own reputation. And of course it goes back to a lot of the many great drivers in the history of motorsport that to this day are mostly remembered as well for the colors of the helmets. So the sooner you can actually pick up livery of your helmet that really suits you and represents you, and the better you will become on track, the more you will be remembered. And you can see some of the mechanics finding different actually use, an interesting use to the trolleys that are being used, of course, to transport the carts and the machines onto the track.
My money's on that man winning the race.
All right, way to go, because we have more than one protagonist that we could put actually our money on, but here they are, getting themselves ready.
Here we go then, the front of the grid then. Freddie Lloyd for this one. What a weekend he's had. He qualified at P8. He had a second place finish in his first race and then 3 race wins with the 2 heat wins, and then he winning his super heats. He gains another 10 championship points as he has a quick word with our race director, Martin Bean. Romeo Roussel alongside him for the VictoryLane Karting team qualified P14 at the start of this weekend. He had a 6th place finish and a 4th and 3rd in his qualifying heats. He finished his super heat earlier on today in P2. He starts on that front row in the number 26 kart, and what a weekend he has had. There he is, getting himself ready to get going for this race. Helmet's not on yet. Final words of encouragement from the VictoryLane team, the French team, who's certainly done a fabulous job. Again, Martin Bean also having a quick word with him about the start of the race for this one. The starting procedure obviously very important for a lot of these drivers. Further back though in the grid, 2nd row, starting 3rd place on the inside row, Rocco Coronel. Well, what a weekend he had. I think he came away with a penalty at the end of his super heat, am I right in saying, for an unfair manoeuvre, but he still starts this one 3rd on track. He qualified it on pole on Friday. He's had 2 heat wins. He had a 5th place and finished 13th after that post-race penalty at the end of his super heat 2 he was in. He rounds out 3rd in the intermediate classifications throughout today, meaning he comes away with 8 championship points added to his name. He certainly will help him increase his championship fight out there. Louis Command starts alongside him for the Dream Racing team on the Cosmic chassis. He qualified 19th on Friday, but he had a 4th and 2 6th place finishes in his qualifying heats. Put it P4 in the end of his superheat as well. He came away with 20 intermediate classifications, putting him 4th overall and getting away with 7 championship points. You can see him there on your screens, ready to get going. He was one of the drivers involved with that miraculous incident with Harrison Mackie in the superheat earlier on today. Very interesting.
And the next one on the grid, on the 3rd row of that grid, we're gonna see Jenson Graham from Fusion Motorsport. One last piece of advice from his mechanic. Jenson Graham 5th on that grid. He had a good run of qualifying heats as well, with best results 2 places and a 3rd. And one of his heats, unfortunately, picked up a 14th place after a penalty. That put him a little bit further back on the grid, but from the inside line, ideally positioned to try to take the slipstream from Rocco Coronel and Freddie Lloyd just in front of him. By his side, from 6th on the grid, and Great Britain, Harry Bartle, representing Croc Promotion. Harry Bartle picking up a win in the qualifying heats yesterday, an 8th and a 3rd in the superheat of the Sunday morning. He's going to be one of the drivers to keep an eye on from the outside of the grid, coming to turn number 1. We just entered the last 3 minutes before lights out, as you can see from Mr. Ross Hampton. This is the moment where the drivers really get themselves into their own zone to focus really on the task at hand. Cathal Clark from 7th on the grid, representing VictoryLane. He's going to try to put his red speed machine as high as possible. Cathal Clark with a 2nd and a 3rd and a 5 as best results into the qualifying heats. A strong handshake from his mechanic. The last few words for Cathal Clark to try to get him into that confidence level that he needs and that he has already. Cathal Clark, that was one of the protagonists in this morning's superheat, and ideally positioned on the inside.
The whistle blows, the grid clears as we get going for the 2nd final of the weekend. Thomas Kinsey, who starts this one on the outside row, on the 5th row of the grid. He starts P10 with the fantastic helmet livery. I've said it already several times this weekend. I am a big fan of that livery. Again, simplicity. I like it. Bit of a Sharpie on the helmet. Beautiful. He had a fantastic weekend as well. Ups and downs, though, throughout it. He qualified it in P6, 13th in his first race, 7th, 5th, and a 2nd in his Super earlier on. Sacha van Bad Bosch there on your screens, also finishing 11th overall, just missing out on any championship points in the superheats, but has got an opportunity to come away with a fair chunk in this final. Qualified P21. He had work to do. He finished P10, 8th, and 2nd. He finished 7th in the superheat earlier on today. A fantastic shot, aerial view of the starting grid there before this final gets underway. The longest race these drivers will have faced over this weekend, 14 laps in total, as we see the next driver on the grid. Tiziano Kuzhnini, who starts it just behind on the outside row on row 6 in P12. He goes alongside. He has also had a good weekend. He qualified 2nd overall. One of his qualifying heats didn't go well. His last one, he finished P16, but he came back in the superheats with a P5 finish. He doesn't come away with any championship points in the superheats, but again, he could have an opportunity to gain many in this final. And of course, we know he can get moves across this field. We get ready to get going. The grandstands fill, the spectator areas fill as we get ready to go racing here for the 2nd time after the lunch break. It's the finals. It's Junior X30 as we see the mechanics and pit crew ready to watch the karts pull away from the starting grid. You can imagine the tension is building down there on the dummy grid. Reminder, Freddie Lloyd leads the championship, 63 championship points from Alexis Constant. Cathal Clark is 3rd with only 3 points behind Alexis Constant for the championship. But here we go, the whistle blows, Junior X30 final. The 36 drivers get underway. Here's the starting lineup. Freddie Lloyd from Romeo Roussel on the front row. Rocco Coronel and Louis Command on row 2. Jenson Graham and Harry Bartle go from row 3, from Cathal Clark and Riccardo Ferrari on row 4. Timo Ramikers and Thomas Kinsey round out the top 10 on row 5, with Sacha van Bad Bosch and Tiziano Kuzhnini going from row 6. Isaac Phelps and Toby Gale go from row 7, with Harrison Mackie and Vilma Svan going from row 8. Christopher El Fagali and Eden Spanswick go from row 9. Arjun Kraling and Sam Woolley round out the top 20 on row 10.
Row 11 will see Matt Corby and Clovis Nouguered, followed by Filippo Pacotti and Bertram Sach. Henry Carter and Sandro Perez on row number 13. Row number 14, Philippe Carras and Matteo Mellis. Daniel Kelleher and Kais Aziza on row number 15. Followed by Paul Andriotis, Alexis Constant, Wouter Berganu, Mathus Riba, Conor Clancy and Hatton Lennon. Alexis Constant, you've heard his name, is only 32nd on this grid after a disastrous weekend for the driver who won in the rain in Mariembourg. And Constant is going to try to make everything possible into that race. He's going to have a lot of recovery to do. He's second still in the point classification overall of the class, being chased by Cathal Clark and Thomas Kinsey, whose respective weekends have been way more fruitful than for Alexis Constant. That was the first appearance of Alexis Constant, of course, in Franciacorta. Didn't go according to plan. Let's see what he can do and try to recover through the field of the junior category. 36 drivers, as we had more than almost 60 at the beginning of the weekend. Pretty much half of that left, and 3 only will be allowed to step on the podium and get the reward at the end of this 14-lap final. So all bets are off. Let's see who can rise on top of this field. Will it be Freddie Lloyd from pole position? Can Romeo Roussel create a great surprise? Can Rocco Coronel confirm the big expectations ever since the weekend started? Can we see Harry Bartle, Louis Cummings, Jason Graham or Cathal Clark from further back try to make a difference into that race? Green as we go. Wiggle racing on the first attempt into turn number 1 and the sector of turn and 3. The first sector, first breaking point, and good get away from most of the drivers. Have spoken too soon. A bit of a wheel tussle further back as Rocco Coronel is actually gained a place up into P2, just behind Freddie Lloyd, who had a good start around the inside of turn number 1. Rocco Coronel up into P2, and already a wagon of 5 drivers trying to pull away from the rest of the field. A good start from Freddie Lloyd.
Yep, good start indeed. And there you see Rocco Coronel in second place. Also a very good start. He came through from that second row from P3. The inside line once again working well. There you can see the Fusion driver of Jensen Graham in 4th place, getting to work there to see what he can do. Here we go then, across the line they go. It is Lloyd who leads from Coronel, Clark, Graham, Roussel, Ferrari. Then it's Bartle, Kuman, Ramekers and Harrison Mackie who rounds out the top 10. Side by side, Romeo Roussel and Louis Kuman battling away. There's a driver who's got a bit of front-end damage there and has gone to the back of the grid. That is the 100 kart. That is Felipe Cadas, who also had an issue earlier on in the day today, and it's certainly not been his Sunday. But at the front here, it's certainly been his weekend. Freddie Lloyd leads the way, and comfortably at the moment, I will say, from Coronel and Clark. But Coronel is not going to make it easy for him. The driver who qualified it on pole position was the fastest driver here in the wet conditions on Friday. And now he's the fastest and the first leading driver in this race. Rocco Coronel takes the lead, going across the start-finish line and on to lap number 3. 2 laps completed, and Freddie Lloyd will have to respond here, and he does respond instantly, squeezing that kart down the inside there, trying to find a piece of track, but he can't make the move stick. He stays there in P2, once again sending it down the inside, and Cathal Clark kind of forcing that move there upon him as he tried himself to go down the inside, and he does get down the inside. But Rocco Coronel instantly fights back. That's allowing Jensen Graham to close right back into the fray. The early stages of this race, remember, it will calm down as Graham dives it down the inside of Clark, and Clark now under pressure from his teammate Romeo Roussel, who's just there behind. Keep a close eye on him. The 2 Victory Lane drivers line astern now as they go back down the back straight in towards turn number 14, bumping and barging. Graham holds on to that inside line as Louis Command splits the 2 Victory Lane drivers and now moves up in towards P5.
Jensen Graham lost no time at all to try to go to the rescue of his teammate, but now he's going the other way around as Freddie Lloyd and Rocco Coronel are both able to pull away 7/10 of a second from Graham in difficulty, with Cathal Clark trying to pressure him on the way to turn number 5. He's having to go defensive, the Fusion driver, as you can see, losing a bit of momentum as he shuts that door. Watch out for Roussel as well, who's being overtaken by Louis Cumming in the process. Ricardo Ferrari with the Gillard machine is making his way up as well, as Aaron Gralling from VDK has the fastest lap so far, lap number 4 out of 14, and is already getting started to heat a lot into the upper part of that field. Freddie Lloyd, Rocco Coronel still split by pretty much nothing. As for the back, we have Cathal Clark, Jenson Graham on the way to turn number 14. On the inside goes Riccardo Ferrari on Louis Comin, and he made that stick beautifully up to P5. As for the back, we have also Romeo Roussel trying to make his way through as well, and he stays in P7. Harrison Mackie down in P9. Alfegali, that we saw so brilliant into the superheat, is stuck in P8. Recovering from the back end of the grid, he was actually P15 on that grid, climbing 9 places. Christopher Alfegali. Let's keep an eye on the GG Motorsport driver from the back end if he can make the connection with what happened with Bosco Arias, climbing 24 positions in the mini final. Anything's possible at that stage on that Franciacorta karting track. But at the moment, Freddie Lloyd is trying to pick up the pace a little bit, trying to hold off as well Rocco Coronel. But at this point, those two need to stay within together. They don't need to make anything to go for any unwise move, because look at the gap they've been able to build on the rest of the field.
If Freddie Lloyd can finish this race and gain another 25 championship points, he goes into the final round leading by quite some margin. It will certainly give himself a good step to winning the championship this year, but he's got a long way to go in this race. Yellow flags have come out over the start-finish line. I think one of the cones was hit there, and I think maybe something else has gone awry. We'll see if we can get an update for you on that one. But yes, the battle here still rages on as Coronel and Lloyd just working together here now. They don't need to battle. Essentially, they can stick line astern here. They both know what they need to do and wait until that last lap. But let's see what will happen. No, it's not going to happen, because down the inside, Rocco Coronel thinks, no, I want the race lead here. And he takes the race lead through turn 14. And Cathal Clark now may have an opportunity here to start closing in. He's all by himself there. Graham and Ferrari are line astern as well. That battle continues. But Freddie Lloyd now, second in this race, is under threat.
Rocco Coronel actually lapped 0.2 of a second faster on the lap before. So he thought that was certainly the right moment for him to launch an attack, because there was always the risk of seeing Cathal Clark taking Jenson Graham and both of them really getting close. We've seen that with the minis. That could lead to a beautiful and hectic end of the race, but certainly not what the drivers in the lead would like to see. But with 1.2 seconds advantage on Cathal Clark in P3, well, it was the a moment well picked by Rocco Coronel, as Sascha Van Padbosch is picking up an investigation flag in the process. Sascha Van Padbosch is all the way down in the classification. We'll get back to that. But in the meantime, Rocco Coronel, his fellow countryman, is holding on to that first position. Freddie Lloyd still on his shadow, on his rear bumper. I don't see Freddie Lloyd, of course, trying to, he's going to try to harass him as much as he can. He's demonstrated his pace, not only this weekend, but all throughout the season. Freddie Lloyd has been the Mr. Consistent of this season of the IMA Euro. Twice a second in Zohara in Mariembourg. That could be his chance to finally grab his hands on the win. And as you said, build himself a bit of a gap, a decent gap coming to the home of champions in August. Here's a watch back on the move on the inside of turn 14 for Rocco Coronel. And you could see that further back, Cathal Clark was actually close to make that stick. These are some of the moments in the early stage of that race. Cathal Clark and Coronel battling along against Freddie Lloyd before Clark would lose out a bit of momentum. This is the move, the same one just a couple of laps later for the lead. And Cathal Clark was this time around out of reach to try to do the same.
Yes, indeed. Here we go then. There's Cathal Clark then in third place, the number 6. This is still heating up here, though. This is Ferrari and Mackie, who are just continuing to swap places here. I think they've determined that they're not going to catch up to Clark, who has gone well up the road now, or Lloyd and Coronel, so they are battling amongst themselves now for P4. They're still further way down the order, back with the race lead. Coronel starting to actually pull a gap here on Lloyd. Lloyd needs to be careful. Yes, okay, he can stay behind and push Coronel, but if he loses touch with him, he will still not get the opportunity to win his first final. He needs to do it, and now he is going to do it. He dives it down the inside through turns 2 and 3 and gets it done. So there it is. Freddie Lloyd now leads the way. Coronel down into second place and has certainly changed it up here now. And keep a close eye on these two, because if they keep swapping positions, Cathal Clark will be all over it, and a little bit of a twitch there from Coronel as he goes into the braking zone of turn number 9, clips the outside curb, and the back of the car just kicks out just that little bit. Keeps control of it, go back down the back straight in towards turn 14 once again. We are running out of time here. There's only about 3 laps left to go in this race. Across the line once more. Look at the closing distance there from Coronel as they go through turn number 1, down in towards turn 2. No move this time. Stays behind. Super glues himself to that rear bumper of Freddie Lloyd. Lloyd, like you said, who has only... No, he's not won a final yet this year. He's had 20 points in both the finals. He has not come away with a final win this season. He's right there in the lead of this one and holding on to it. A perfect day for him, a perfect weekend. He qualified 8th, a second 2 heat wins. The superheat went well as well. And this final certainly heating up. And the battle behind, look at this battle behind. It's so heating up, but they're going to be nowhere near the race leaders.
Yeah, let's try to identify hand. There's a switch for position with Rocco Coronel. We had a bit expecting that move for the past few moments. And once again, it shows the best spot to do that. This is turn number 14. As Rocco Coronel makes his way back up into the lead on his way to what could be his first victory of the season in the junior category. Fantastic piece of driving from Rocco Coronel. As we said, he picked up a penalty at the end of this superheat that put him actually on the inside from P3 and no longer on the front row of the grid. And it actually turned out to be a good result and a good turn of event for him, as we're losing the number 50 from VDK by the look of it. Let's try to see who that is. It's Matt Corby, the Swiss driver who seemed to get into some mechanical trouble. He's still in this race, but losing a bit of momentum in the process. As, whoa, a bit of a touch. That was maybe a slight bang, actually, sent by Freddie Lloyd on Rocco Coronel into the braking zone of that turn number 14. He's another driver that we've lost, unfortunately. That might have been Matt Corby, or is it? No, this is Matus Riba from MDC Racing by the look of it, as he was competing down in 28th position, trying to climb a couple of places into the ranks. Rocco Coronel goes for another attack in turn number 5 this time around, and he made that stick beautifully. We haven't seen anything yet. We haven't seen anything yet into that final. Who will take the trophy in the end? 1 lap and a half until a checkered flag. Rocco Coronel has picked up the spot once again. Freddie Lloyd very much still on his rear bumper, and he's had enough of it and takes the lead back again. Beautiful performance from Freddie Lloyd. What a beautiful ballet that is from both Freddie Lloyd and Rocco Coronel. And watch out on the way to the hairpin. Once again, we could have Cathal Clark as the third driver into that play.
Wow, look at this here now. Cathal Clark all over the rear bumper of these two. This is the last thing that these two wanted going into the final lap of this race. Ring the dinner bell. Let's bring it home then. Freddie Lloyd, Coronel or Clark. One of these three is going to come away with a final win. Who is it going to be? Defensive goes Lloyd. In towards turn number 5, holds on to it then as they exit through turn 6, now in towards turn 7 and 8, super fast through this section here. You've got to be having the mechanical grip through the corners, and a near move there from Coronel, who tries to find a way down the inside but can't quite do it. Keep an eye on Mackie though, because Mackie's close in as well. This could be a four-way battle going into the final hairpin here, down the back straight. Here comes Lloyd to the inside. Clark switches to the outside. He's going to go the long way round. Now Coronel's going to have to defend it. It could be a first final win. Perez won in Zuera. It was Constant in Marienburg. It is Freddie Lloyd in Franciacorta, and he gets another 25 championship points to his tally and extends his championship lead now by nearly 40 points. 83 champion points to Freddie Lloyd. Cathal Clark second with 49. There is around 30-odd, 40 points. I can't quite do the maths right now. I'm thinking about the racing, but that is a substantial gap between the two of them. Rocco Coronel then is 1 point shy from Cathal Clark in the championship. He has 48 points. We go to Genk at the end of August, and well, it's so close in the championship. You couldn't write it, but your man on screen, his first final win of the season in 2023 in the Miami Euro Series. Freddie Lloyd brings it back into it. Well, I'm looking at my timing screen here. Oh, it's frozen. That's why it was a different name on the top of my screen. There we go. But I had a heart palpitation there for Freddie Lloyd.
No, don't worry, it's your fellow countryman taking the lead for the first time, and a beautiful win. Well deserved for Freddie Lloyd. Lloyd takes the win, his first of the season. Rocco Coronel having to make do with second place. That was a close call. Look at that, 68,000 of a second on the line. Cathal Clark was the third one into that fantastic ballet of three drivers, having to make do with the first step of the podium. He said in the interview that he thought of Freddie Lloyd to be very, very good. But both of you, Rocco Coronel and Cathal Clark, were equally superb into that race. Second and third in the end. Harrison Mackie down in P4 with a great recovery of 11 places. Then we have Riccardo Ferrari down in P5, followed by Christopher Elfegalli, Toby Gale, Harry Bartle, Jenson Graham, Wilmer Svan running up the top 10. Then we have Thibaut Ramakers, Romeo Roussel, Sam Worley, Eden Spanswyk, Bertram Sach down in P15. And the rest of the classification quite quickly. Isaac Phelps down in 16, followed by Louis Camin, Filippo Pancotti, Daniel Callagher, Andrew Carter 20. Alexis Constant down in 21, despite a beautiful recovery of 11 places, followed by Paul Andriotti, Sandro Perez, Ethan Lennon, Philip Carras, Conor Clancy, Nugarade, Van Pat Bosch, Berganu, Matt Corby, Kai Aziza and Matteo Melis. These are the drivers that we have at the finish line. 4 drivers missing, unfortunately for them. Matthias Riba, Aaron Crowling, Tiziano Kuzhnini and Thomas Kinsey. A couple of big names actually that didn't make it through. Aaron Crowling won one of the qualifying heats. The congratulations, of course, well deserved to Freddie Lloyd from Fusion Motorsport, picking up the win, his first of the season. As we're going to welcome back on the podium, Mr. Bonara Ettore, giving out the trophy to Harrison Mackie. Congratulations, Harrison. Well done to you. Second position, Rocco Coronel. And finally, your winner in Franciacorta, Freddie Lloyd. And well done to Fusion Motorsport and Mr. Chris Rogers, representative of the British team under the Italian sunshine. Congratulations to the 4 of you. Freddie Lloyd, Rocco Coronel, Harrison Mackie. We can applaud them once again, please, ladies and gentlemen, our top 2 drivers of the junior class, as you can gather together for the photos and raise those trophies high in the air of Franciacorta. Thank you very much indeed. And the last photo of the, don't step out of the first step, of course, that would be quite not the way you want to finish the weekend, as we can bring out the champagne bottles as well to celebrate that beautiful win the way it deserves. Ready? 3, 2, 1, champagne! Whoa, that was one heck of a champagne show for the whole team. You might have not seen that, but we had a bit of a champagne on one of our cameras in the process. But well done to you. And if we can pick up Freddie Lloyd very quickly for one last word. Freddie, come with me in the center of the podium. If we can have your final thoughts in the center, in front of number 1, of course. Well deserved to you, Freddie. What a weekend it has been. Wow, it's about time to, take your head down, cool down a little bit. The champagne might have helped, but what are your first thoughts after this win?
It's just amazing. It's my first win of the series. I just feel so great. It's just amazing. Just got to chill now. Just got to chill now.
Yeah, still chilling, and us as well, because this has been a fantastic final. Everything came together at the right time for you.
Yeah, everything worked out as planned. Pushed Rocco, and then we got away, and then I got him on the last couple of laps, and then won the race.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Freddie Lloyd, and enjoy this one. This is well deserved. We'll see you in Genk. Thank you, Freddie Lloyd, and congratulations to Fusion Motorsport, as well as to Rocco Coronel and Harrison Mackie for your beautiful performance in the junior class.